Giuliani has conceded that he lied to Georgia election workers. Oh, really? The melting man has conceded. He made these statements, this concession, this temporary handshaking with the truth, in court papers filed last night, as part of a defamation lawsuit that two election workers, we saw them testify before the J6 committee, Ruby Freeman and her daughter, Shaye Moss. Remember them? They were volunteer election workers here in Georgia. And the two of them, after what they went through because of the filthy lies perpetrated against them by Rudy Giuliani and these other gangster son of a bitches who operate for the head of the Trump crime family, Donald Jesus Trump. They brought charges against him in federal district court in D.C. in December 2021. That lawsuit, brought by the mother and her daughter, accused Giuliani and others of promoting a video that was designed to show Mrs. Freeman and her daughter manipulating ballots while working at the State Farm Arena here in Metro Atlanta for the Fulton County Board of Elections. And Giuliani, this pig son of a bitch, knew that he was setting up this woman and her daughter for the kinds of harassment and death threats and use of the N-word against them, and to the point where they had to hide, they had to go away because of what Giuliani and the Trump Nazis did. So now, in a 2-page declaration, according to New York Times, I guess, America's mayor, remember that, acknowledged that he in fact had made these lying, filthy statements about Ms. Freeman and Ms. Moss that led to the filing of the lawsuit, and that the remarks, quote, carry meaning that is defamatory per se. Oh, isn't that lovely language, legal language, defamatory per se? By their own existence, they are defamatory, right? He also admitted that his statements were actionable and false, and that he no longer disputed the factual elements of liability that the election workers had raised in their suit. Which means what? Well, he admits that his statements are actionable. That means he is subject to lawsuits because of what he said, the lying little worm, and that they were false. Oh, really, Rudy? Oh, my goodness. After all your filthy lying, after all the garbage that came out of your mouth and the hair dye that dripped down the side of your head, you're finally going to admit that you're a lying son of a bitch, willing to sell off your soul, whatever's left of it, to Donald Trump. And that he no longer disputes what is called the factual elements of liability that the two election workers raised. The factual elements of liability, that yes, he was responsible for the results these two women had to endure, including death threats and filthy language used against them. Good God. But Giuliani never one to fully admit his culpability because he's a worm. He insists that he still has what he calls, or the papers called, a legal defense in the case. He said that he continued to believe his accusations about the two women were, quote, constitutionally protected, here it comes, under the First Amendment. Yes, goddammit, I can say any freaking thing I want to say, even when I know it is nothing but huge, smelly chunks of bullshit to put two women's lives in danger, to embarrass them, humiliate them. I can still do it because of my First Amendment protection. Of course, I work for a monster, or I did work for the monster, who, when he's reelected, will take the First Amendment and turn it into bathroom tissue. But never mind, I'll use it now against these two, black ladies. I still have a legal defense. And he also, to add insult to injury, this little prick, he refused to acknowledge that the lies he told on these women had caused any damage to them at all. That's a key element required to collect a judgment in a case like this, a defamation case. Woo! So yeah, this worm goes into the courtroom and acknowledges it was all bullshit. It was all lies. Okay, but I still have a case. I do. I still have a case because, my precious First Amendment. And my precious First Amendment guarantees that I can say any filthy, rotten thing I want to say about somebody. And nobody can stop me. The declaration that he filed in the court last night, wherein he admits that he is a lying son of a bitch where it concerns the defamation suit, the charges he made against these two, mother and daughter, by the way, these two election workers during the 2020 election. That declaration... This is Giuliani's story. I'm just going to share it with you. He said he filed that because he was facing potentially painful penalty for having failed to live up to his discovery obligations in the case. It appeared to be part of an effort to move past the discovery phase because he said he couldn't afford it. So I'm just going to go ahead and admit that I lied like a rug because I can't afford to come up with the necessary elements of discovery that might show I'm innocent. Have you ever heard of a more bullshit claim than that? And even were it true, where's his good buddy Donald Jesus Trump, who has collected tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on his little whiny-ass plea about how mean everybody's treating me? The FBI's after me and the Justice Department. Oh, and that goddamn Jack Smith. Right? So, in this declaration that Rudy the Bat filed last night in the court, he acknowledged that he was making the concession that, yes, he's a lying son of a bitch, quote, to avoid unnecessary expenses in litigating what I believe to be unnecessary disputes, end quote. Woo! These people sure do talk funny, don't they? Huh? I mean, it just, what the hell does that kind of language mean to someone like me, to someone like you, to someone like the mom and daughter who brought this case against this rat bastard? I mean, what does that mean? You know what it means to me? It means slippery, slidey. I'm going to weasel my way out of this shit. Watch me. And then a spokesman for Rudy the Bat, somebody named Ted Goodman, doesn't identify him in this article as one of the Bat's lawyers. It just says he's a spokesman. But the spokesman said that the Bat had made the concessions to move the case more quickly to a point where a motion to dismiss could be filed. Oh, really? Oh, I see. It's all part of a Trumpian legal strategy. Go ahead and admit that you lied so we can get past the discovery, so we can get to the point where you can make a motion to dismiss all this bullshit. These two Georgia women, what the hell do they know? They don't know anything. Man, they're just non-persons. They just happen to turn up in the video that Rudy decided he wanted to use. Now, Miss Freeman and Miss Moss, the mother and daughter who brought the lawsuit, has a lawyer named Michael Gottlieb, and Mr. Gottlieb said that Giuliani's declaration conceded that his clients, Miss Freeman and Miss Moss, quote, had honorably performed their civic duties in the 2020 presidential election in full compliance with the law, and the allegations of election fraud that Giuliani and former President Trump made against them have been false since day one. Well, okay. But I think even when we heard the charges made, common folk like you and me, right, gentle listener, knew it was bullshit. Come on. So the attorney for the two women added, quote, with certain issues, while certain issues, including damages, remain to be decided by the court, our clients are pleased with this major milestone in their fight for justice and look forward to presenting what remains of this case at trial, end quote. Now, I'll make a prediction. And I know in situations like this, only a fool would make a prediction, even if the fool is somebody representing either side in this particular lawsuit. But here's my prediction. This will never get to trial. It will not, because Trump will let Giuliani's handlers know, you got to stop this son of a bitch quick, because if it goes to court, there'll be all kinds of testimony under oath that's going to make me look bad, and they're just after me. This will never go to trial. This will be pleaded out or pled out before that time. A deal will be made. An agreement will be reached, and it will never go to trial. And I hope that Miss Freeman and Miss Moss wring this son of a bitch like a wet dish rag where it concerns financial damages for what Giuliani did to their lives. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.